Have you ever looked at your life and thought, why is this so hard for me? How come other people seem to have it figured out? It's like no matter how hard you try, you're still struggling, physically, emotionally, financially. I think the worst part is that the only common denominator seems to be yourself. So what are you doing wrong? Because that's what you've been told, right? That if you're struggling, it must be your fault. Maybe you're lazy, bad with money, or just not doing it right. But what if that's not true? What if the problem isn't you, but the world you're trying to exist in? Maybe you're not failing at life. Maybe life is failing at supporting people like you. People with deep gifts, insights, and drive who are meant to do something different, something more. A lot of people who think and care deeply are struggling right now. Not just a little either, but struggling to survive. Chronic illness, depression, constant money worries, feeling utterly alone. If that sounds familiar, I promise it's not just you. If you're new here, I'm Rachel. I'm a writer and social entrepreneur, and I've spent the past 10 years trying to understand why people with so much potential end up trapped in just trying to get through the day. That's because I'm still one of those people. I have chronic fatigue, and I'm on disability, and far too many days feel like a fight for survival. But I'm here because I'm driven by a mission. I believe there are many people out there with a staggering potential, but the world keeps holding them down. In my last video, I called these people evolutionaries, people who are wired differently. If you haven't seen that yet, you might want to check it out after this one. If you've ever felt like you don't belong, but you don't know why, this might be the missing piece. But in short, evolutionaries have 3 key traits. 1, you're gifted, meaning you think fast, make deep connections, and process the world differently. It doesn't mean you're a genius, and it definitely doesn't mean you're wildly successful. Often it's quite the opposite. Number 2, you're highly sensitive, emotionally and physically, which means you take in everything, from people's emotions to sounds, smells, tastes, and so on. Number 3, you have an unstoppable drive to make the world better, even when you're too exhausted to try. So this term evolutionary comes from Elaine Jacobson, who's an expert in giftedness. And it's backed also by science in terms of brain scans, which show that both giftedness and high sensitivity are measurable differences in the brain. One of the reasons this channel exists is because people like us need a name. We need to recognize that this is a type of neurodivergence that isn't widely understood, but should be. Because once you realize you're wired differently, you can stop blaming yourself for not thriving in a world that wasn't made for you. Which brings me to the real question. If you have so much potential, why has your life often sucked? Why do you keep having the same crap happen over and over again? I say that as someone who's had repeated failures. I've spent a decade trying to understand why people who have so much to offer end up caught in cycles of exhaustion, illness, and survival mode. And more importantly, I'm determined to bring us together so we can actually change that. So today I'm sharing something I wish I had known years ago. Before I say it, a caveat. I'm not here to act like an expert or someone with a string of degrees. I'm simply here to share what I've figured out and to encourage you to share what you've discovered too. Because I've noticed a pattern. When I talk to people like this, I keep seeing the same 4 problems. While many people blame themselves or bad luck, the truth is it's not random, it's systemic. And these systems shape every part of our lives, leading to what I call the big 4 problems. So big problem number 1, chronic illness and mysterious health problems. Autoimmune disease, constant fatigue, anxiety and depression, doctors running tests but finding nothing. While the causes at first seem unknown, I believe they aren't random. So many evolutionaries have health struggles, not because they're weak, but because they push themselves beyond their limits in a world that doesn't recognize their needs. I'll explain more about what I believe the root cause is in a minute. Big problem number 2, money. How are you feeling about money these days? Unless you've been very lucky, likely it's a worry. Sometimes it's a case of trading your happiness and sense of purpose for the money, but you can't do that forever. Or maybe you know you should be able to make good money, but no matter what you do, it just doesn't work. Maybe you're unemployed, disabled, or stuck in a job you could do in your sleep, but wish you didn't have to. My husband Malcolm has a master's in environmental technology and worked for the European Space Agency, but he walked away from all that to run a hostel in the Welsh Mountains. I used to work in web design, and now I've been technically unemployed and on disability for years. Money, therefore, has been a massive struggle. If you've had to leave a career, found yourself unable to work, or are barely scraping by while knowing you're capable of more, it's not just you. You're not bad with money. You're designed to think outside the box. The problem is, most workplaces don't reward deep thinking, creativity, or the kind of vision that people like you bring. Big problem number 3, trauma. The best way I can describe trauma is this. Have you ever felt like life is a nightmare you can't wake up from? Or found yourself in a full-blown panic or exhaustion spiral over something that seems small, but somehow it floors you? For years, I didn't realize that almost every fight Malcolm and I have is actually about our past trauma getting triggered. And I know, trauma is one of those words that gets thrown around so much that people roll their eyes when they hear it. But just because it's overused doesn't mean it's not real. It's here. It shapes everything. And if we want to get out of survival mode, we have to deal with it. I can't tell you how many times I've been making real progress only for trauma to knock me down. Complex trauma, which is repeated, sustained stress, rewires your nervous system. It makes tiny obstacles feel insurmountable. It convinces you to sabotage things you care about, push people away without meaning to, and give up on what you desperately want. If you start projects but crash, or make great friends but somehow lose them, trauma is probably part of the story. Okay, last but not least, big problem number 4, isolation. Do you feel like no one in your life truly gets you? Like you don't have anyone who thinks and feels the way you do? Do you feel like you don't belong in this world? I talked about feeling like an alien in my last video because I discovered that a lot of people feel this way and would even use that exact word, alien. It's like we've been beamed down from the mothership accidentally, and now we're meant to make sense of this train wreck. Happily, humans are meant to problem solve together. Unhappily, we live in a system that keeps us isolated, making us think we have to figure everything out alone. I mean, that's why I'm here on YouTube. I'm trying to find my tribe. So here's the big reveal. You're not failing, you're running on empty. You're like a plant that's wilting. You're being told to try harder, do better, do it differently, follow these 5 tips or whatever, when what your little plant needs is soil, water, and light. You need good food, meaningful, enjoyable work, a nourishing home, and a community where you can be yourself. But that can feel like the most outrageous utopia when you've spent your life pushing through exhaustion and setbacks. This isn't a mindset problem. This isn't about positive thinking or reframing or letting go of attachment. I mean, if that works for you, great. But none of that stuff ever did for me. despite trying it in many different forms over the years. So no, what this is a basic needs problem. You need enough rest so your body can recover, food that gives you energy instead of making you crash, a way to make money that doesn't drain the life out of you, a safe, stable home where you're not constantly stressed about bills, healing from past trauma so stress doesn't keep knocking you down, people who get you and would love for you to be you, just as you are, and a sense of purpose and meaning, knowing that you're here to make the world better. Without these things, at least to a certain extent, life feels miserable. Of course it does. The good news? There's a way out. In the next video, I'll break down what evolutionaries actually need to thrive and how to start getting those basic needs met, even in a world that doesn't make it easy. Now, I'd like to know, which of the big 4 problems is the hardest for you right now? Or maybe I've missed one. Drop a comment and let me know. But listen, you're not a failure and you're not doing life wrong. You've just never been given what you need. And that's what we're going to start figuring out together. See you soon.